Desperation is growing in Kabul among tens of thousands of people hoping to leave Afghanistan after the Taliban seized power. This despite a pledge by U.S. President Joe Biden to evacuate all Americans and all Afghans who assisted the U.S. war effort and to give them equal priority. Biden has faced a storm of his criticism for his handling of the evacuation that saw several people die as crowds overran the airport. U.S. forces have brought the chaos under control, but for those still gathered outside Kabul airport, it's a nervous wait.
A new day in Afghanistan, calm in the center of Kabul. A stark contrast to the chaos at the airport the night before. Desperate Afghans throng the barriers manned by U.S. soldiers. Gunfire echoes through the night, warning shots from the American forces to keep the crowd at bay. U.S. President Joe Biden again defended the rapid departure of his country's military that enabled the sudden Taliban victory.
If we had decided 15 years ago to leave Afghanistan, it would have been really difficult. If we decided 5 years ago, if we continued the war for another decade and tried to leave, there's no way in which you'd be able to leave Afghanistan without there being some of what you're seeing now.
It is not only the scramble at Kabul airport weighing on the Western conscience, but also the prospect of extremist Taliban rule for the Afghan population, including millions of women. One Kabul resident recorded this message to the world. Today, I am here to ask for your help. If you don't help Afghan women today and ignore them, remember that the world will not forget. It will be recorded in history, and you will be remembered in history as those who dropped the ball when they were most needed. Some Afghans have made it out. U.S. aircraft have begun ferrying evacuees from Qatar to a U.S. Air Force base in Ramstein, Germany. Their relocation was necessary to continue evacuations from Kabul to Qatar.
They are in good condition. They look very exhausted. They look very tired, but seeing the children and the families coming off with huge smiles, it warms your heart.
But the good fortune of the few throws into stark relief the misery for the many left behind.
Journalist Franz Marty joins me now from Kabul. Franz, what's the situation at the airport this morning?
Unfortunately, more or less the same as during the past days. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of people trying to get in, and scenes are chaotic. This is to blame on all sides. The Taliban, for example, today told a journalist colleague, don't come to the airport, we can't guarantee safety. So the Taliban are overwhelmed and haven't handled it perfectly. Same is true for the international forces. There have been reports of people with all the necessary paperwork showing up at the right time, at the right gate, but find it empty or empty, with no people there to process them, or completely closed. And thirdly, it is like many Afghans who don't have the permission for a flight, flock to the airport, and then, of course, won't get in and block the access route for others.
Franz, I imagine Afghans never know what each new morning has in store for them. What's happening on Kabul streets today, apart from the airport?
I myself haven't been out yet, but I have heard from people that have been on the street. It is rather quiet. There have been apparently many more Taliban that have come into the city. They're in certain parts, not in others. Shops have opened. Unfortunately, banks remain closed and money exchange remain closed. And this becomes to get a problem for people who run out of money.
We are hearing reports that the Taliban co-founder Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar has arrived in Kabul for talks on setting up a government. What more can you tell us about that?
He indeed has apparently arrived. There are no details. The Taliban representatives have been speaking with figures from the former Afghan government, namely President Hamid Karzai, Dr. Abdullah, and Hezb Islami leader Hekmatyar. What these talks will yield has to be seen now. There are no details yet.
The Panjshir Valley in Afghanistan's north is where there appears to be a historically strong resistance against the Taliban. Do you hear support for this movement from where you are?
There is some support. They also have taken 2-3 neighboring districts, but at the moment it is like a small movement and in a difficult position.
That's Franz Marty in Kabul. Many thanks, Franz.